Well, should see desktop audio, so you can hear my audio. You've got the opposite ones, so you need to mute the desktop audio. Mute. dokie. I suppose I better talk as well to check that you can hear me as well. I can hear you perfectly fine. If you will muted it on OBS, just move your OBS screen over so we can see.
There we go.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yep. Okay. Okay, guys, I think we're back. Apologies. Can you tell we've been off for a while? I think that you should be able to hear me just fine now.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Hello, everyone. You know, it's not a live stream with Lisa and Owen. At least one thing goes wrong. So this time it was like 8 different things. So I don't. I really. I watch a lot of YouTubers. I'm gonna give them a lot of credit now. I'm like, this is kind of difficult to make sure that it's all set up right. All right, we are so excited to be here today. I'm looking down because I have notes again. For those of us that, hey, I like how Owen, because he knows if I have notes, that's my serious. I'm trying to make sure that I'm being serious about it. If you are a first time with us, hey, thanks for joining us. We love having our customers on these live streams. It's a great way for you to engage with those of us here at Senso. These are, we do product roadmaps, talk about portal release, any big changes, things coming up. This one is, we have done a portal release in August, right? I'm trying to remember when in August, Owen.
Yeah, it was about 2 weeks ago, wasn't it? Because it happened just before I went away on holiday. Because I've been in a slumber for the last 2 weeks.
Everybody went on a holiday. It seems
Yeah.
like it's a good time of year, right here towards the end of summer, and so everyone's back now. We thought we would now talk about some of the things within the portal release. This one specifically was addressing a lot of things that we wanted to clean up on the back end, little bug tweaks here and there. So there's not tremendous amount of things to show you. We're going to try to go through as much as we can. There is a big one on the Chromebook that I am excited. I have props today. Let's see how this works. There's a Chromebook sitting here. I had to like shove all of my Lego paraphernalia out of the way to make room for the Chromebook. So we're going to talk about a change on the Chromebook. And then of course, make sure in the chat we have lots of awesome Senso superheroes in the chat helping us out today. If you have any questions at all, please pop them in there. If you have sales questions, anything at all, we will probably, even though they'll be answered in the chat, we'll probably address them here, because I think when we post these after the live stream, I'm not sure that we put the live chat in them. So I always like to go through the questions while we're talking, so people, if we don't post that live chat there, they can see some of the questions that get asked. Um, So, bookkeeping, attendance done. we can. That was the teacher and me. Like, okay, everyone's here now. We can start the lesson. Too many years of being a teacher. I will say here, of course, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We have a lot of great content, that anything from training videos to live streams to marketing things. You don't want to miss it, especially new customers. This is a great resource for you. So go ahead, and they always say hit that subscribe. I don't know why they do that. I'm just like, just click it. Just gently click the subscribe button so you make sure that you get alerts from us. You really don't even have to do the bell icon. Just check back with us every now and again. You'll see it in your subscriber list of different things that we have got going on. There is a new video out there I will point you to. We did one about service desk. I introduced a member of our development team, Leah. She did great. She was really nervous going into that, but that was fun. It's nice for you guys to start meeting other members of the team. Okay, Owen, I think I have rambled on long enough, taken up everybody's precious time. Let's get right into that. So,
You're doing me a favor because my brain's still catching up.
I have notes over here as well as notes that I have in front of me. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so let's start off with, hey, we have the dog. Awesome.
Yeah.
I miss bringing Gus into the office. We have a great office, well, U.S. office, name is Gus, and he's at home recuperating. He had a little knee surgery, but he's doing great, and so he's been out of the office. For everyone here in the office misses him. Every time I come in, the receptionist is like, Gus today? Not today. Okay, so let's talk about some of just the background stuff. I want to talk about the bug stuff because then I want to jump into the cool stuff. So, drag and drop. Drag and drop devices from list view over into groups was I'm trying to think, was a little tough. You had a very small I guess window of an area around it that you had to really get your cursor. I couldn't, my mind just did the windows like shut down. The cursor, so you really had to get like right on top of it to be able to move those devices over into the groups. So now that has been sorted out so that you may not even know that we have a drag and drop functionality in there, and that you can come over here, select devices, and you can see how I'm moving them over, and you can go ahead and put them into those users. Now you'll see there what is you're wanting to happen there is that highlight bar to show up. That really shows you that, if you're like just get anywhere near it, you really need to have that little box that shows up around it. And then it's going to open up the add to group and give you options as to what you want to add it to the group by: device name, username, remote host name. The little issue before was, man, you had to it was like this tiny little area. You had to get right on it. If you didn't, it didn't move it over. So that's a big one, especially if you are really like to utilize this drag and drop feature when you're setting up your groups. Now, is that the only way you can set up groups? Of course not. I like to also go over some of the features that are already there when we're talking about these. You may not even know that they're there. Filter groups, when you're up here, you have a lot more options as far as what you can filter the groups when you're actually editing the groups. Everything from device name, remote host, golly, just everything in there, I find that Chromebooks tend to like remote host or email best. And then, Owen, do you want to tell them about the wildcard that we have over here for that?
Yeah, so on the wildcard side of things, if you're going, obviously, if you've got device names that have follow a similar pattern, you can say, for example, IT Suite 1. And every single device starts with IT Suite 1. You can wildcard it so that any devices with IT Suite 1 at the beginning of the name, they'll get included into a group. And you can do this, you can wildcard everything of those filters if you wanted to as well, including IP subnets.
Yep. All right. So, groups. Drag and drop. If you use that all the time, that's one of those you're like, yeah, I love that. That's going to be a good one. Slow group filters. If you utilize group filters when you're building them, you know that it was a little slow to load, that you would go in and you would, needing to create these groups and build these groups, that is something that has been addressed as well, so that it doesn't take quite as long to kind of go through and load that information. Again, These are all just little tweaks and fixes that we like to do for our customers, because if you're, this is something that affects you, don't think it's just affecting you, like, let us know, because we like to get it fixed for everybody. All right, there is a lot of changes for Asset and Support Desk. Owen, if you want to switch us over there, I actually have additional notes for this one. There's so much stuff that has changed within Asset and Support. A lot of it is on the back end.
Do you want
So,
me on service desk or asset first?
ooh, dealer's choice.
Yeah, and you've got two sections of service desk. Do you want the admin side or the front end side?
I think this is just more going to be a visual of what I'm talking about more than anything. Talking about the things that we're fixing here. I'm sorry, I'm going to give you your scroll. I want to scroll down just a little bit and then you can take back over. So, service desk. Okay. We have an automation rule that an email that I was assigned to a technician was not working correctly. That seems to be sorted out. The user was unable to select tags on tickets. That's something I'm really just kind of reading through a list of things that if you are a big user of our service desk, these are things you're kind of listening for, features that you may want to know that we have sorted out and are working on. These are awesome things to know. Email forwarding, service desk. Emails containing a signature will not come through on a service desk. Email forwarding, that's something. I know, Owen, you had mentioned to me a long time ago, and I was like, I think we're looking at that one.
Yeah, I think that might have. I think that one. I think there's a bit of a delay with that one right now as well, just to pre-warn you.
Okay,
So that one might still exist for a handful of customers, but I know that the majority is fixed for.
great. Let me see over here. We had where there were some 500 errors that were getting thrown. That seems to have been sorted out. We talked about the email forwarding, and there are a lot of other service desk theme UI fixes. We like to change and modify. We love a good dashboard, if the dashboard for service desk. But within each of these, the UI for service desk, there were some little tweaks that needed to be addressed. And so, actually, if you would like to, there are 2 videos on our YouTube channel that are really great for service desk. That I will direct you to. One is an overview that Leah and I did. That's just kind of this is what service desk is. These are some of the things that we've worked on and improved since probably the last time you've seen it. And then there's a longer in-depth video that Owen and I did where we go into the nuts and bolts of how to set things up and really kind of a much deeper dive. So it just depends on what kind of time you have. Do you want to take 5 minutes and just kind of do a quick overview? Is something that looks like you might need for your tenancy, or if you really want to kind of deep dive into it, there's 2 separate videos about that. Okay, let's do asset now. There's many more on that one, but again, I don't want this to be a whole video about bugs. I really want this to celebrate some of the big changes. Now, when we do this portal release, sometimes in these portal releases, there's not a lot of front-facing things that are changing other than UI, because UI is one of those things that's great, that's constantly being updated and modified. There could just be things like this one, where we're just fixing things on the back end. Alright, let me scroll up here. Asset Manager, we have site settings and alerts that can be configured in a dark mode styling. Server offline status, that's for asset, excuse me, something different. There's manager reports, Neverwhere, table search boxes. Those have been put in there. Asset manager applications listing, displaying duplicates. That's been addressed. I feel like I'm missing things. If I skip over things, Owen, you might tell me.
No, I think you're getting it right.
Okay. Lots asset manager application, yeah. So a lot of little tweaks for that for asset. Again, if you're, it's just like service desk. If you're utilizing asset, you may see a lot of the things that you're like, oh, just that little tiny bug right there. That has been addressed. That has been fixed. It's just there, especially between asset, delete asset not working. There's a lot of tweaks and changes within Service Desk and within Asset that if you're a heavy user of it, these are going to be kind of deep menu things that you're going to notice within there. But I mean, man, look at that. What a great overview. We'd love a good dashboard. Okay. Um, let's talk about some of our integrations. Specifically, we're going to address Microsoft Teams Sync and Clever Sync. So I will talk about Clever real quick, and then I'm going to throw it to you.
Okay.
For
Oh,
the
yeah, it's the
Microsoft.
team sync, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Nope. Wrong window. There we go. Cool new feature within Clever. You have the ability now to import individual users and sync individual user groups. So if you want to import users, it will show you a user list, and then will be able to do that. And then you can resync individual users. Maybe you have one user that's giving you some drama, that you will be able to come in here and select that user and pull those groups over from the last sync. So these are some new features as far as that. Very, very cool. I think that's a neat functionality that we have offered for the Clever side of it. Now, we wanted to address something as far as Microsoft Teams Sync. That there have been a lot of background improvements as far as the Microsoft Teams Sync goes, but Owen and I were talking about there is some setup that we wanted to address today since we had you guys on with us.
Yeah, so we've had a few customers, not a huge amount. We've had a few customers whereby they're using our feature for importing their users from Azure Active Directory, and they're using the group to role mapping and also the group to site mapping. Now, we do try to make sure that we're quite clear on this, is that if you add a Azure Active Directory group into this and match it to a role, it's going to import every user that is in that Azure Active Directory group. This will include students. We obviously strongly recommend that you do not add students or anybody that shouldn't be accessing Senso or shouldn't have access to Senso. Make sure they're not part of the Azure Active Directory groups. My best recommendation, don't use existing Azure Active Directory groups. Make Senso specific Azure Active Directory groups, because when you come to look at that group in your setup, you know that group's purpose. Whereas if you're utilizing other groups that are already pre-made, I mean, it's fine, but from a security perspective, from covering your backs perspective, it's probably better that you use Senso specific groups within your Azure Active Directory, adding your users into that, and then you've got complete control and you've got complete knowledge and know of who is in the groups and whether they should be in the groups or not. And you can still utilize the other groups within that group, because obviously you can have things like nested groups, etc. But you just need to make sure that students are excluded from those, or basically people that shouldn't have access to Senso. Because we have seen a lot of incidents of this where accounts have been created because of the Azure Active Directory groups, and obviously this is not something that we can prevent. This can only be prevented by the prerequisites that you've got to do, as they say. We love the word prerequisites here.
We got a whole video about it.
Oh yeah, we've got a whole video about prerequisites. Prerequisites are important when it comes to everything. It's not even just Senso. Everything in the IT world, prerequisites are extremely important. So please make sure that you go to our support articles when it comes to TeamSync. This stuff is all referenced in there as well.
Right, and the prerequisites video we're talking about is something that if you are a new customer with us, we actually send you the link for. It's a kind of it's a unlisted video that we have that walks you through basic setup, tips and tricks from Owen and I, prerequisites of how to set it up. It kind of follows through our KB article of really, of course, the fun part of Senso is getting those devices in there and seeing them show up in the portal and doing all the tool sets against them. But There is some things that we highly recommend doing first. Building that nice foundation so that when you build your house, and so on top of it, that it makes a lot more sense. And of course, you can always go back and modify things. But if you'd like to see that prerequisite video, reach out to your customer success representative, your sales representative. They'll send you a link to it, and you can kind of, it's a good 45 minutes of your time. Watch Owen and I just be us. But it does. There's a lot. It's a deep dive into Senso. I really enjoy doing that because it's a lot of things that, how many installations have we done in so many different environments that we can sit there
And
and
so many
go,
countries as
oh
well,
my
because
gosh, yeah.
yeah.
Like, oh, a lot of
We've seen all the setups. We've seen all the setups. There isn't a setup that we haven't seen.
right.
And based on all the setups that we've seen, we've kind of built up a recommended best practice for all of this. So that prerequisite video is a good thing to look at if you're starting your adventure on Senso, you're early in your days of Senso, or if you just want to sort of refresh yourself because perhaps you're having specific issues or needs around Senso and you just want to double check everything on your side. That video will cover a lot of bases for everybody.
I mean, it is something that, especially coming back after the summer, you have about 50 different other projects that you've looked at,
Yeah.
and you have been re-imaging, power washing Chromebooks, moving rooms. I don't know how many times every other summer I'd have to move my office somewhere, pulling things out of racks, what have you. This is one of those. Then you sit back down in front of your software that is your everyday software. This is your, this is what you do. How do I do this? Or, oh, can I make this better? Yeah, that's what we want to put that out there for you. So that may be a good one to request a link for. Plus all the other videos that we have out there that we're trying to update as much as possible and give you a lot of good content. All right. We are going to talk about logging, a lot of changes as far as UI of logging, and again, some of the back end of logging that has happened in here. Let's go straight into the violation area here, where you'll notice over as I hover over these tables here that I have the ability to actually select the whole table. So I don't have to be very specific about just this individual, clicking right on it. The whole thing is editable there. Now, another thing that is tied into this side of logging is that we have a lot more filters that you'll see right there. I clicked on the little slide down to show and hide filters, and this is a lot of ways to kind of parse through that data. I mean, data is king. Data is great, but if you just have a data dump and you cannot get through it and you cannot pinpoint, you can't track, you can't make correlations between, it really doesn't do you a lot of good. So that's what we're trying to give you more filter, the ability to get through just the amount of information that we are collecting and presenting to you so that you can get through it a little bit easier. Everything from severity level, you can look at device and users phrase and your libraries. The actions include, excludes. Those are nice. I mean, really granular stuff within here. And then the context. And you can search and kind of extract more information out of these violations as they are coming in. Just keep in mind, once you have set these, a couple things, little trick or tips, I guess I could have. You can hide it. It'll still hold those filters, but you can hide it. Like, it's great, but I don't know how to get it to go away. That's right there. And then you clear filters as well. So if you build something that you're only wanting to see, let's just say critical, and you're searching for those, and then you come back later, you will want to clear those filters out. So that is a nice little feature there. Now on the front side, as far as when we are talking about logging, you'll see here I have created an urgent violation, and on that urgent violation you'll see that you get now this little, it says urgent violation in list view here. Another area that has modified is, you may not know, that you can actually view the violations, boom, right there in violations. That's all. I just clicked the little box next to where I saw my violation happening. I have expanded out my violations, and there are my violations. Just like I had gone into the back end and looked at the violation itself, I used one of our libraries and changed the term Leroy to be a critical violation so that I could go ahead and have it trigger on this side. In addition, another cool feature, you will get this, what I call, you can tell, I watched a lot of Blue's Clues with my kiddos, and I still say handy dandy notebook. That may date me. But I say handy dandy all the time. There is a handy dandy feature where an indicator, a box if you will show up in the top right hand corner to let you know when violations come in. Awesome. However, that may be something you may want to know. How do I turn that on or off? And that's going to be up here in your profile settings. So you just go to your name, you go into profile settings, you can enable violation alert pop-ups, true or false. These console preferences are really great as well. You can do things, change the theme, the default console tab. Do you want to go straight into thumbnail? Do you want to stay in list view? One of my favorites over here is remote controlled state, so that when I go into thumbnail view, I automatically go in with shared control. Instead of it defaults to no control, you can modify that as well. But that's where you can enable or turn on or off, depending on how you want to set it up, those violation alert pop-ups. All right. I lost my train of thought there. Did you see
You're reading the messages.
Oh no, I have it. We'll stop for just a moment before I transition into show you something on the Chromebook side of things, and I will look at the messages. Best part of my day is logging. I bet there's some doozies in there. You learn a lot. Will there be audit logging against console users in this release? And Owen has answered, audit logging against console users has always existed. Do you mean a device audit logging? Okay. And yeah, I know why your camera is dark. You're just in a dark place today.
I'm not. I'm in a really, really bright room. This is what I'm like looking at. I'm sat here getting confused as to why my camera's getting so, because it's not dark outside either, and I've got a bright white light over my head, and yet here the camera is. It's just going. Yeah, I think it must just be my tan.
You just spent so much time at the beach that's it. And it's a vast contrast because I'm the opposite. I have one light in here, and it's like this glaring light, and then everything around me is dark. It's the complete opposite. It's I told y'all we were having some technical difficulties this morning, and that was one of them. Is Owen apparently joined the dark side when he went on a holiday. He was like, "This is just my jam now." Okay, I need to find out. Okay, I'm reading from the thing. I'm reading out of the chat because I love when we have participation in the chat. So I need to find out every now and then when a staff may connect to a PC or remote control or send a file.
Yeah, so I think I know who you are, Dr. Soda, because I'm fairly certain you're in Discord. But the audit logs can be found under console users. I need to watch what I said then. Console users, audit logs, and under here you can search for a specific date. So you can do the last 30 days. If you want, you can filter it by a specific user. If it's a specific user, you could do it via a certain action if you wanted to. So you said send file, so I believe send file should be on here if someone has used send file. Doesn't look like any one of our staff have used send file, so it might not show up. But in here is where you can do all of those things and search what it is that you need. The parameters, if you're looking for a certain device, it's a device. So if you say a certain device has been remoted into, or a report that a certain device has been remoted into, just type the device's name in the parameters section, and it will show up under there.
And the big difference between audit log and why it says audit logs legacy on there now, that might be a quick explanation for those that why are there two?
To answer Martin's question, yeah, there is a window behind me, which is probably the reason. And Richard James, yes, that is on the. There is a way of doing it now, but obviously, like you say, needs to be a bit more of a simplified way. It is on the roadmap. There's a few prerequisites we have to reach before we can achieve that, but it is top. It's near the top of our roadmap for what you're talking about.
And what I was referencing earlier about the audit logs is that we had audit logs legacy. We changed the way the audit logs were to make it easier to get through all of that data. Again, the whole thing about the having too much data not being able to get to it. So
Yep.
anything past a certain date went into the new audit logs, and we retained all that information in the audit logs legacy. So audit log legacy, you see you have to go in and search for a specific user and find that information, whereas in the audit logs, the new system, it's a lot easier, cleaner. You can filter through it. So your logs are still there, but you'll have to see after a certain date, you're going to have to go into the older area, the legacy area, before you can start getting into that. Okay. Yeah, and they said send file is in that filter. They just had a look on there. See, that's great. I love our users are like, let me check. Okay, so I have next, and we are still, oh my gosh, keep asking us questions. You see us, we're like, chat time. So we want to look at that. But I really want to talk about one of the biggest changes for Chromebooks, because I have a prop today. I have a Chromebook. I hope that's going to totally show up on camera. Okay, so we've added a configuration, an extra configuration. Man, how do I want to say that?
An extra configuration.
I don't know that I want to change my accent. It's already bad enough. And an extra option in your configuration file, aka your JSON file that goes into your Google Admin Center. Wow, I got there. I took the long way around, but I got there. So we have, let's start with what we offer now as far as the mechanisms to see in thumbnail view, which would probably help if we were actually in thumbnail view Chromebooks. Our most popular, active tab only. The ability to see active tab, whatever they're in. If they go into a new tab, you'll see here it says no active tab, but the second that they have opened up a new tab, it is going to show you that. The biggest drawback to that, not drawback, it's just because of the mechanism of how it's set up, you don't see the URL bar at the top. That leads us into the next big option that we have is seeing everything they do. The full remote desktop, if you're familiar with Chrome Remote Desktop, this is seeing everything. They close the browser down, they open extensions up, no matter what they do, being able to see everything. That does tie into Google's API, which means it prompts the user with a box that wants them to accept the share. You have two options up until this point with that. They had the option to accept the share. It would prompt them. They could cancel, then prompt them again, or you could lock the device where it's, it's a black screen that says please share your screen, and it essentially locks it until they're forced to accept the share. This fourth option that we have now with this release that has come out is that you can remote view only in thumbnail view, meaning that if you come into thumbnail view before and you had it set up where you wanted it to prompt them to share everything on their desktop, the second anyone went into thumbnail view, it prompted any, the devices they had access to, that box that would show up. If they switched back to list view, the prompt would go away. But if they stayed in thumbnail, it would either lock or prompt those students until they accepted that share. This last option, what it does is it shows you whatever active tab they are in, but doesn't prompt them to share full screen unless you individually click on and go into the user. So now you'll see on there, I was afraid the green screen is kind of, but you get the idea here, correct? Okay, you see that box that shows up on the Chromebooks. So I've gone into full screen mode here of this Chromebook, and that's where my prompt has happened to share it. If I come back out of this, it just goes and shows the active tab, and the prompt will go away here on this screen because I'm not prompting them to share it anymore. So now it's just the normal green screen version of it, but it's just the normal tab. So what will happen if I go into full screen view again, I get that prompt on the Chromebook. I can now accept the share on the, and you'll see what will happen on. Now I'm seeing everything that they're doing on the Chromebook because they've accepted the share. If I minimize this, I'm still going to see everything on that Chromebook. So it gives you a lot of options on how to utilize Chromebooks and viewing them accepting the share, giving them the option not to accept the share, are only really having them prompt go into the share if you need to see everything. So I think that last one, while Active Tab is the most popular, I also see this being a great way to utilize seeing everything that they're doing on their screen, but not prompting them every single time they go into thumbnail view. You can see what they're doing on the Active Tab and thumbnail view, but then you're going to have those individual users that you're like, man, I really need to see everything. Then you can prompt that individual user with this new setup. So if you check our KB articles, I have added, it is the how to use the configuration file for deployment of Google Admin. Just rolls off the tongue, that title. It's snappy. You'll see down at the bottom of the article, I've added in the last bit of information for that. And if you want to modify that, you will need to download your configuration file out of the admin center for your sites. When you download your configuration file here, it will show you an extra option at the end for this feature. Okay, I see that we have some questions coming in, so I'm going to back up and kind of answer those. Oh, we got some love from Dr. Soda. That's nice. Nice. I'm a sucker. I'm like,
have we got, Lisa, have we got any machines set up with the denied screen policy?
No, but we could real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Do you want to set up? Do you want me to? I think we've got one. I might already have one set up. Actually.
Yeah, if you'll do that so I can kind of address some of the chat, that'd be wondermus. That is totally not a word. Is it possible to pixelate thumbnail views for sensitive users, accounts, for example? No, that is a great suggestion, though. I understand what you're saying. Pixelate.
That's what I'm showing now.
Okay.
Instead of the pixelation, it's using denied screen instead. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So we're gonna, while not the pixelate, that's what Owen is about to set up. My nose is running like crazy. That there is a setting in that you can deny screen. So that you can, that's what he's showing you right now, is the request permission to remote view and deny thumbnails and auto deny within 15 seconds. Now this is for Windows. This would be a Windows feature.
Yes.
Okay. Then there are some support. Thank you, Mr. Spink. It's possible to have a notification for the user if the screen is being monitored. Yes, that is what there are on both sides, essentially, if you think about this. What he's setting up now with the settings with the prompt user, so that when you go in, they have to accept, again, Windows, they have to accept it. And so anybody on the other end of those denied thumbnails now, if he clicked, it goes into thumbnail, the large screen view, they're going to get a box that says, Owen is trying to view your screen, accept or deny. And then once that box retains its area on the screen until he's done remoting in. Now on the Chromebooks, the Active Tab only is the only one that doesn't give them an indication that anybody is monitoring their screen. But if you want them to have some sort of indication that someone is monitoring the screen, then that's where setting those, accepting the share comes in. They know they have accepted the share from someone, and again, all of this is audited. So I don't know, Owen, if anybody is sitting in front of those so that they can accept the share. But
they're the virtual machines.
Oh, okay.
I'm not currently connected to them, so I won't be able to thingy about them. But you kind of get the gist of it. The other good thing is as well, I'm not sure if you mentioned this just now, is that they get a little box in the top right-hand corner to say that the screen is being monitored, and they can control to not give them access anymore. So if they don't want to give them access anymore, they've got the ability and the power to go, right, I need to get on with my work now, go away, sort of thing.
Right. And again, administrators, I know that when I was thinking about, I just set this up with the customer for a counselor. I think it would be a safety officer for you guys. I'm trying to think of the terminology between the states and where you guys are. So
I think we're calling them designated safeguarding leads over here.
Yes, but in this counselor, someone that is
pastoral.
is kind of, it's not really a disciplinary that they're in. They're the sensitive subjects with those kiddos, that they may be looking up some private information, and they need to know when someone is viewing their screen. Of course, they want to have someone like the IT team be able to remote in and help them, but also if they are viewing something of a sensitive nature about a student, that they know when someone is trying to access their device. So that is a great example of, you could create a whole separate group or a whole separate site for any of those devices or users that need to be more privacy involved in remote viewing their screens, and set that policy setting there so they know this person is asking, I can say yes or no, and then you can go for, and you can see the whole time that they're accessing your screen. So that's a great question to bring up. I think that's going to help out a lot of people. They may not know that that's there. And also the preload screen is there too. There's two things built into that one policy, that you can preload screens, as well as asking it to show as denied. So very good. That's what I have. I was really excited. Anything Chromebook, I'm like, I love when there's anything new Chromebook. I want to showcase the Chromebook side of things. Speaking of Chromebooks, I believe I will double, triple check, but as anybody that works within Google Admin Console, if the day ends in Y, Google likes to change the way the Google Admin Console looks, and it is just a constant, like, I'm trying to update the screenshots on those KB articles, so bear with me. I think I've got them all changed now, so it points you, because they changed it big time. It wasn't like, oh, this menu is over here. Like, the whole thing looks different now, and things don't make sense of where they put it. I guess it makes sense to people that work for Google, but for the rest of us, we're like, oh man, I just figured out where that was. So I have tried to make sure that all those KB articles have been changed. If you find any, let us know. We'll make sure that those screenshots get updated on there, especially on the Google side. It's just constant. Okay. Another question out of chat. I don't know if you saw this one.
From Richard about taking a photo.
Yes.
That one?
Yep.
Yeah. So technically it is completely possible. What you're asking, Richard, it's not something we do. It's a bit of a, well, there's other caveats to it. I think it's a bit of a minefield on a legal scale. Would you agree, Lisa?
I mean,
they're taking a photo
yeah.
from the laptop's camera to catch the person, so that because
Yeah.
I've had this incident when I was
Yeah.
working in schools myself, where you get the student comes into you and says, oh, it was actually such and such who wrote that on my computer, and I never used to accept that response. I was like, well, at the end of the day, you're responsible for your account. You're the one who's supposed to look after it. If I was to leave my account unlocked and left open somewhere, I could lose my job. So it's no different for anybody, really. It's a good way of teaching them security, in my opinion. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, I digress. But yeah, it's not something we do currently. It is actually something that we've discussed quite heavily before. It is actually something that we can do very easily too. I know for a fact that we could do it very easily on the Windows side. Probably can on the Chrome side. But yeah,
but I'm on the other side of the fence. I'm like, no. I'm the devil's advocate here. I'm like, no.
It's a bit of a minefield from a legal. I think from a GDPR and things like that. There's a lot of things that you've got to be careful with it, and it's sort of like, do you want to go down that avenue? And potentially, I think you can understand where I'm coming from right now. Hopefully.
and with as much delicate as I can be and not mention any outright names, there is a competitor of ours a very long time ago when they first came out with their products specifically for Chromebooks. They did have that feature. It didn't last very long before that feature was removed. So if that tells you any sort of how privacy plays into that, it seemed like a good idea. And then it wasn't, and so that feature was quickly removed, and they don't talk about it anymore. So it's a, as we say in Texas, can of worms, can open worms everywhere sort of thing.
Yeah.
That it's something internally like, what should we do and what do we need to do to make sure that we ensure student privacy. But Owen, I agree with you 1,000%. I used to do digital citizenship workshops at the school that I worked with about safety of your privacy online. Anything you post to the internet is now always, it's forever.
Yeah.
It's always there. It is a repository, and I use that like that that there's a picture of Beyonce that she didn't want on the internet, and it's really unflattering. And I was just like, now that she said something, now it's definitely not ever going anywhere. Just keep that in mind. But we did a whole digital citizenship, and that was part of it. About this is your login, this is your username, this is your password. Don't give it to your friends because you're responsible for actions that they do on your equipment. And that tended to help. It only took one to get in trouble for somebody else doing something stupid, and all of a sudden that stopped happening. So, yep. Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough for school. Yeah, and they don't know their rights. I love how it's all tech directors, so we all have the same brain. We all basically think about things in the same mechanisms and way. And all of our tech offices look the same. It is something that I have found absolutely fascinating is that any tech office you go to is in various states of repair and disrepair and organized chaos around the world. I don't care where you are.
Or it's a broom cupboard.
It's always small. It's usually very hot or very cold, depending
Yeah.
on. And there is always just cables and accoutrement everywhere. And everyone's like, "Your office is a travesty," and you're like, I just cleaned it. Not really. Like, this is me trying to find stuff. So that's everybody's office. All right, guys, that is the end of the post-it notes, of the written out notes. Again, there wasn't terrible much to go over as far as UI changes, portal changes, features. This is why we labeled this as a portal release, not a feature. Anytime you see, you'll start learning the differences when we put tags on the videos. This was to talk about some of the fixes on the back end, have great conversations with our customers about things like the deny screen and different things like that, and let you know that we're constantly working to make big improvements so that it works better for you. If you have any more customer feature requests, that is how we build a roadmap. We would love to hear from them, hear from you. You can contact support, support.senso.cloud. There's a whole page. You can log in. You can log information there. You can come into chat. We'll create a ticket for you that's a customer feature request, or reach out to your customer success representative and or your sales representative and let them know, hey, it would be great if, and a lot of times we'll do like this and say, yeah, we have this. You can do it this way, and we'll kind of point you in the right direction. Anything, Owen, you think you want to add as on that before I start wrapping her up?
No, you've beat me to it all, so you're all
right. You're like, talk everything, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I've got no
My
problem
brain's still
with that.
mushy. My brain is still mushy.
Well, no more mushy brain. One more question I think we've got coming in. It says, I think it's already been put in as a feature request, but like how you have the ability to make console users through Azure AD groups to be able to do that through G Suite. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
That's been I've had that feature request in for some time, and it is 100% there on the roadmap. It's time, I think, really, isn't it, Lisa?
Yeah, to pull that over and get Chromebooks, because Chromebooks are, it's such a complete different entity than anything Windows side of it. But yes, but I would say as someone who is predominantly, I'm trying to say, the more with Chromebooks, I guess, because the States has just adopted it a little bit earlier than anywhere else. Google Classroom integration. Sorry.
Speed test module. I've had quite a lot of chatter about the speed test module. I will get, if you are an enterprise customer, I will get that out to all our enterprise customers this week. I just need to verify a couple of bits to find out which module bundles it's going into. But enterprise customers, I will make sure it goes out to you all this week. That has just reminded me that was one of my job lists for this week.
And make sure you turn it on. You got to go in the modules and click the little button. But to wrap up about the Google side of it, utilize the Google Classroom integrations. Even if it's just teachers create the classroom just for the integration, they don't have to constantly update it. Just get those kiddos in there, and like twice a year, they need to put kids in, take kids out, archive them. That is a really invaluable tool as far as organizing Chromebooks for you and your teachers and group filters. All right, I'm done. Owen, you done?
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Owen's like, I was done like 20 minutes ago. All right, I will do my wrap up, and I actually will remember to put the outro screen. I'm the worst at remembering to put. I've got so verklempt, I lost my voice.
Yeah, you're losing your voice. Where's your voice going?
I was so like, I finally remembered to put the outro screen. Please check us out on all of our socials. Okay, here I'm going to try LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and our website, Senso.cloud. Did I get them all? I think I did.
Yeah.
All of those. Check us out there. Like, comment, subscribe. This YouTube channel is a great repository for you and your users, and you'll get notifications for the next live stream coming up soon. I think product roadmap may be the next one after this one. I could be wrong, but there is a live stream coming up after this. Owen and I, we always, we love to see you guys. Thank you for joining us. This is a great conversation. And what day is it? What is today? Is it Wednesday? Have it.
I think it's. Yeah, it is Wednesday.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
it is Wednesday.
it's like
I have to
that.
check the calendar there.
It's only Wednesday. Have a great
It's
midweek.
Hump Day. Happy Hump Day. That's what we should be saying. Happy Hump Day.
Happy midweek. And for those of us in the States, we are coming up on a 3-day weekend because of Labor Day. And I got to tell you, I'm looking so much forward to it. So, all right. That's all I got.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Outro. Outro.
Outro. I'm going to, okay. Where is it?